You want to go downstairs? Do you? You want to go downstairs? Hi everybody, Elliot here, Lazy Dogs Records. You know what I enjoy about the vinyl community is when folks will get on a particular topic and and other people will respond with similar videos, and you kind of start a thread here. And Hannah over at the Omaha Introvert, she did this great overview of power pop, and it's really good. Check it out if you haven't seen it already. You probably already have. And then Mazzy had not really a response video, but he did a video, and he talked about more power pop and reiterated some things that Hannah had said. And so it was very interesting to see those two. So I just, on a whim here, I just started going through my albums a little bit and said, okay, I'll show some of my power pop records and talk about it just a little bit. I'm by no means an expert in power pop, but it's a genre I do enjoy. We're talking about the origins, and she talked about the three B's: the Beatles, the Byrds, and the Beach Boys. Well, how about the precursors to that? And here's what I was thinking: how different is what Buddy Holly was doing on a lot of his music from what we would call power pop? Now think about it. That'll Be the Day. Doesn't that sound like a power pop song to you? Peggy Sue, um, Well, All Right, and let's see, there was another one I was thinking, Oh Boy. Uh, those are power pop songs, aren't they? From Buddy Holly in the 1950s. And how about another precursor, maybe? The Everly Brothers. Think about Bye Bye Love, Wake Up Little Susie, uh, just Kathy's Clown, just several. Not necessarily the Everly Brothers were all about power pop, but a lot of their songs seem to be precursors, maybe, to the power pop we would see a few years later uh, from the Beatles, the big three that they've talked about, and uh, for uh, for the bands to come afterwards. Now, everybody thinks I'm just a bluegrass or acoustic music person, but I'm a little more versatile than you may think. I've had this album for 40 years, probably. There's the Flaming Groovies that are mentioned by both Mazzy and Hannah. Uh, Jumping in the Night. This one is called, and this one is from 1979. So I was a freshman sophomore in college then, and here's one. I'll try to get them. Let me come to this one a little bit later. Okay, uh, Nick Lowe. I really never thought of Nick Lowe as being a power pop artist, but okay, this is a newer album by Nick. This is that second album they talked about, and this is a good one right here. I always thought of Nick Lowe as somebody that went into late '70s and into the '80s, went back to the roots of the music and was playing uh, more roots. But I see where you would get power pop from it. I guess a lot of it is. But how do you talk about Nick Lowe without talking about Dave Edmunds? And maybe Dave was a little more of the rootsy rockabilly stuff than Nick, or maybe they were about the same. But which one did "Crawling from the Wreckage"? That, I love that song. I think it was Dave Edmunds, but I always kind of get those two, confused when I wasn't buying any rock and roll music when I was in college, because I just said there's just nothing good out there. I was buying Nick Lowe and Dave Edmunds records, and of course they get together and do the Rock Pile album. This is a great album, and if it's not power pop, I don't know what is. It got Teacher Teacher, If Sugar Was as Sweet as You, A Knife and a Fork. All that seems like power pop to me. Now, I'm going in, I've got that country acoustic band now. How about Mother Maybell Carter's granddaughter, Carlene? Coming from a countryer side of it, but there's some power pop in this right here. She was actually moved to England, and I think it was Nick Lowe she married. And Nick Lowe produced this album and a couple of, she did about 3 albums over in England. And there's a lot of power pop to a lot of what Carlene Carter did during this period. Even the stuff that ended up getting played on country radio a little bit after that, it was very power poppy. Yeah. And that's from the first family of country music. And then Hannah mentioned the DBs. There's a couple of DBs albums there. Now the DBs were from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and there was a wealth of musical talent and ambition coming out of Winston-Salem during the late 60s and early 70s. The DBs were one example, but there were lots of high school bands, and they, joined one, joined the other, and they cross-pollinated and were very, very creative, and some good stuff came out of it. The DBs probably the most well known. Another one of those bands, or some of the guys that came out of Winston-Salem, or some of the guys that made up Secret Service. This is a EP that was put out on Moonlight Records, a regional label, Secret Service, and they kind of were doing the kind of a punk, not really punk, but new wave kind of feel, but it really goes back to the power pop. And this is they got a little help on this album. It was engineered by Mitch Easter from Winston-Salem as well, and produced by South Carolinian Don Dixon. And which brings us to Let's Active. This is Mitch Easter's band. Mitch Easter's one of those Winston-Salem guys. He had Mitch's Drive-In, which started off as a studio in his parents' garage, and the first REM record was recorded in that EP they put out. Radio Free Europe, was that it, or was you REM folks know that better than me? And wouldn't some of REM's music be considered power pop? Probably so. But Mitch Easter's band was called Let's Active, and they put out, IRS Records signed them at one time, and they put out some good music I would characterize as power pop. There's one that's all been shown by everybody. I think this is some really great stuff. And again, we're calling it power pop. I love this album, and I love his music here. Someday, Some Way. In my mind, I always thought of, roots rock and roll, rockabilly almost, or maybe rockabilly, but roots rock. And oftentimes stuff we're calling power pop, I never made that connection necessarily. And Mazzy mentioned it. I'll end it with this because I really love this band. Mazzy mentioned this band, but he said you wouldn't really call them power pop, but he showed them anyway, so I guess they are power pop. This is the first band I thought of when I saw Hannah's, title for her video about power pop, and that's Squeeze out of England. Isn't Squeeze a power pop band? I can't imagine East Side Story. I can't imagine them not being considered power pop. Tempted. What a great song, and it seems very much to fit into that power pop name, I guess you'd say. And there was another song, and Soft Cell did it. I always thought it was Squeeze. It sounded so much like Squeeze. What was that? I can't remember. Somebody posted in the notes. What is the Soft Cell song that sounds so much like Squeeze? Let's see. Squeeze did Black Coffee in Bed too, didn't he? Wasn't that one of theirs? I don't see it on this album. Must be on a different album, but I remember that one. Anyway, there's a look at my power pop. See, you thought all I had was bluegrass and acoustic music. No, I got a little bit of everything. I'll remind everybody, be kind to your neighbors. We need to all love each other. We're all neighbors, folks. Take care.